So you're getting married in 2024. First off, congratulations. Buenas Zanafade means hello. My name is Sean, and this video is about how to help plan your wedding day coming from a photographer's perspective. You know, I've shot about over maybe like 50 weddings or so in the past 10 years of my life, both as a photographer, videographer, and more of a grip as well. So I thought, hey, why not help out future brides plan out their wedding day by telling them how things should be going, so that way they have a more smooth experience. Now, throughout this video, this is all coming from my experience as a photographer, a guest, as well as someone who recently got married. So hopefully this guide is just here to brighten your day. Anyways, let's go ahead and get started because I don't want to keep videos long. Ring, 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 your alarm wakes you up. It is the beginning of the day and you are ready to start getting prepared for your big day. But hey, hold up, it might not be as smooth as you may think. Mornings are by far, in my opinion and experience, the most busiest part of the wedding day because everyone's waking up, you're not dressed right, you know, you gotta brush your teeth, you gotta make sure your face looks right. There's just a whole mess of things to do at the beginning of the day. And this part is just to help you plan it more organizedly. We're gonna go ahead and split up this section into two parts, one side for the groom, one side for the bride. Let's go ahead and start with the groom. Throughout every wedding I've ever shot, it's always usually the guys that get ready fast and are pretty much done with their prep versus the girls. That being said, what you can do to help plan out your photographer's day so that way their coverage is smooth is to have your photographer maybe cover the guy's side first. I'm talking about them getting ready, having some fun shots, some party shots, you know, hanging out with the boys, maybe some tequila shot. And then having them get dressed and then maybe going down to the hotel lobby or into the garden to get some of those cool looking groomsmen photos that a lot of people, pretty much myself included, like to see as part of a wedding day. And if you happen to have any kind of prep events going on, such as gift giving or letter reading, might as well get it all out of the way with the boys first because, you know, might as well do that than to go back and forth. Speaking of back and forth, the reason why I wanted to make this part for the morning prep especially is because I've shot many weddings in which we had to go back and forth between the guys and the girls. Girls could be on level 7 of the hotel, guys can be on level 5, and having to take the elevator up and down, it just gets so crazy, especially when you're carrying all that stuff on your back. Or if you're dragging around those heavy Pelican cases, it gets very tiring. But luckily, this video here is to help you so you can avoid that. If not for you, the bride or the groom, then the photographer. All right, now that the boys are finished, let's go ahead and talk about the girls. A while back, I shot a wedding in which the bride saw a helpful video on TikTok, and that video was for the bride to put all of her accessories on a table. I'm talking about earrings, necklaces, hair pieces, the veil, the wedding shoes, the bracelet, the anklet, anything you will be wearing on your person as the bride, putting it all on a table, ready to go for your photographer or videographer to shoot when they get there, had made my prep experience so helpful. Think about it. If you're a photographer, you walk into the bride's hotel room, everyone's scattered getting their hair done, brushing their teeth, putting on their makeup, and then you have to bother them saying, hey, I would like to take a picture of your wedding ring or your bracelet or your stuff, and then no one wants to be bothered. It's gonna mess up the entire process. So by having all of that stuff on a wedding table, or any coffee table for that matter, helps so much because everything is already there. I remember that wedding distinctively because that saved my prep time by 30 minutes. Usually it takes me like 20 to 30 minutes to get all that prep shots the way I want it and envision it, but because everything was ready and I didn't have to go all around the bedroom, the hotel room to look for stuff, I was able to get the detail shots done in like 10 minutes. And if you're a tall guy like me, like 6 feet or so, bending over constantly for those little tiny detail photos hurts a lot. By far, that is still my #1 tip to tell all the brides that I shoot with to do, because man, that was super helpful. Next tip for the bride side is to aim at least maybe 2 hours before your ceremony starts. So that way you, your bridesmaids, can have those awesome, fun, and intimate and very dreamlike entourage photos. I'm talking about the bride getting ready by a window. She's looking out the window and her dress is so flowy and so beautiful. She has her makeup and hair done the way she wants it. And then you got your girls all side by side ready for those nice little fun shots, maybe sitting around the bed. If you really want those to get those ideal fun shots with your girls to make it last, don't try to rush it within an hour. I've shot many weddings in which we had to get all of those shots done within an hour, and it was such a rush because then we had to constantly swap them out and then pose and then swap it out back and forth. And then by the time we realized it, 30 minutes had gone by, and then they had to rush to the ceremony. So by giving yourself maybe like 2 hours or so to complete those shots is super helpful. 3 hours would be super perfect, but let's just say you can only keep it to 2 because, you know, time management is very strict and not everyone has the luxury to plan out their day like that. All right, that's it. We're pretty much done with the morning prep. Let's move on over to ceremony. The biggest thing I can tell you that will help you with your ceremony experience is to tell your VIPs to be there at the ceremony venue at least an hour before the ceremony starts. I one time shot a wedding in which the bride's mom came like almost 20 minutes late, and that bride's mom had the flower girl and they didn't want to start the wedding without her. So everyone was pretty much held up by 20 minutes and we had to just wait around. Luckily, the officiator for that wedding, the person who reads them the stuff to say at a wedding. Luckily, they were very lenient and they managed to just hold off until the bride's mom came, and then the ceremony went off without a hitch other than that part. So remember, if you have a mom, a dad, auntie, uncle, sibling who you probably know might be running late, give them a message saying, hey, ceremony starts at 3 o'clock when it actually starts at 4. And then they can show up early. We call that on Guam, chamorro time. Next tip comes after all of the ceremony events are done. You said your vows, you put on the rings, you did the kiss, awesome. Next part's probably a very confusing part, but trust me, this is one of the stresses that I have encountered throughout my many years of shooting weddings, and that is guest photos. A lot of times when a ceremony is done, everyone is prepped, everyone's happy, celebrating, that's all good. But then everyone starts leaving the ceremony hall. And then your photographer is getting ready to put up their lights and they're all ready to go for, you know, group and guest pictures. But guess what? And Uncle Joseph and Auntie Mary are outside and then we don't know where to find them. Now, obviously, if it's an emergency or something urgent like a bathroom break or they have to take a phone call, that's understandable. But most of the time, some people just walk out the church, don't know what they're doing, and then they end up having a smoke break, for example. Uncle Joseph, you know who you are. So try to at least tell the important VIPs like your parents or siblings or aunties, uncles, grandparents to maybe just stick around after the ceremony is done, unless they have to go use the restroom or take a phone call, or if it's an emergency, understandable. Try to get them to stay in their seats so that way when they call them up for the guest pictures, they can take the picture and then be on their way. Now that may not sound like much, but trust me when I say that's gonna save you a hassle on finding Uncle Joseph all the way outside in the opposite side of the parking lot, taking a smoke break. Well, look at that. We're already pretty much over halfway done with the video. But before we get into the reception, we gotta talk about post-ceremony. Hey, but Sean, what do you mean by post-ceremony? Don't worry, Nana, I got you. Post-ceremony, to what I'm referring to, are those dreamy, intimate, and very loving couple photos you have as newlyweds this time. Think of it like an engagement session, but this time you're married, so it's post-engagement, couple session. I'm talking about the ones where you're in your wedding dress, the groom is in his suit, and you guys are taking those romantic and intimate photos at a park, at a beach, at the urban city setting, around the city hall, you name it. Those are so much fun to shoot. So if you would like to have that kind of experience, maybe give yourself 2 hours at least. Same with the prep. Give yourself maybe like 2 hours to shoot. Because just like I said with prep, you don't want to be making it 1 hour before the reception starts and then you're rushing to get your shots and everyone's just all scattered, the things, and overall the session just might not look as intimate and dreamy as you want. Of course, this comes as a luxury because not all weddings run at the same timetable. What if it's all taking place in one single location and you only have 30 minutes of free time to get it done before the reception? Which case I understand. This is just in case you might have that luxury of ending your ceremony way before the reception starts and you have a big window of break in between. So if possible, try to aim at least 2 hours to get it done, because that way the first hour can be used to complete all the necessary shots, and the second one can be more of a free hour, you know, whatever the photographer or videographer can think of, and then they do it. The second tip I have in mind, not as important as the first one, but it is still helpful, is to have a location in mind. You don't want to be on the wedding day and then the photographer comes up to you and says, hey, where would you like your wedding pictures? But you don't know where to do it. Just think of a location you have in mind, so that way when you tell the photographer or videographer where it is, guess what? They're going to be start pre-planning on how to take some shots. Experienced and good photographers know that planning is just as important as the execution. So hey, not really seeing a downside to that, so might as well, right? Good job. See, we're pretty much done with the post ceremony. Now we get onto the last part of the video, which is reception. So you got your guests arriving on time, they're getting to their tables, sitting down, mingling and chatting with each other. What else could go wrong? That's where you might be mistaken, because this part is just as important as the other two. If not, it might be more difficult, depending on the circumstances. First tip I have for this is to inform everyone where they need to be and what time to be ready. You don't want to have your reception entrance starting in 5 minutes, but half of the groomsmen boys are on the opposite side of the venue having a drink of beer and just having a fun time, or the girls are just chatting with the aunties and uncles. Trust me, I've been there many times. But we're not gonna talk about that. That's different. So you gotta tell them to get their asses in line, ready to go. But that's beside the point. Moving on to number 2, which is to inform your photographer as well. Yes, it is our job to always be on top of things, especially if you're spending good money to hire a very good photographer. But don't let that distract you from the fact that we are human too. We may be doing other things during the beginning part of the reception or pre-reception, like such as taking pictures of the wedding table, the wedding cake, the decorations, and then your reception starting in like 20 seconds and we're not in position. There are many different factors on why we could be doing different things. So that's why it's also important to always be on top and bothering your photographer on when important events start. There's literally no harm in doing that. It's just a simple, hey, psst, we're gonna start in like 1 minute. I can guarantee you, if you hire a photographer and you be on top of telling them when things start, they will thank you and they will love you, trust me. All right, you're doing so well. You still with me? All right, good. We're moving on to number 3. Number 3 is a very personal one, and I say this on behalf of all of my wedding videographers and photographers out there, and that is to please feed us. You want me to give you the puppy eyes? Here's the puppy eyes. No, I'm joking about the puppy eyes. But yes, feeding us is pretty much a lifesaver. I want you to think about this. We've been with you throughout the wedding day, from morning all the way up until night. Probably we haven't even had a break at this point. We haven't even gotten a chance to eat a proper lunch because, you know, our entire job of that day is to spend from 8 o'clock-ish to whatever time your reception ends. And of course, that means during dinner time when all the guests are eating, we may start feeling hungry ourselves. So maybe give your photographer a few minutes to just take a break, put the camera down, go chow, get a drink of water especially. And hey, that could pretty much be all that. The best thing you can do for us is to feed us on your reception. There are a few weddings in which I wasn't able to eat, but that's only because I chose not to. I have a very sensitive stomach, but that doesn't mean that my photographers might be easy as well. A lot of times we do get hungry. I have been fortunate to work with pretty much almost every wedding couple I've shot. They gave me like 30 minutes to just put the camera down to go eat. So no pictures, just focus on relaxing, taking a short break, eating all that good food. So that way we're not staring in jealousy at the guests and eating that so good drenched salmon with rice. Made myself hungry just doing that. So yeah, that's pretty much the last helpful tip I can give, is to feeding us, because then we can perform our duties much better throughout the rest of the night. Of course, there are many things that I could do to add on to it, but I didn't want to keep this video too long. I just wanted to put out certain tips and advice coming from me throughout all of my experience shooting weddings. But hey, you might be noticing this video is not done yet, because I have one last minute general closing call tips to add to the video. I say closing call because I couldn't really figure out a way to add this part into the video. But these are just some helpful stories and advice that I've picked up recently that I feel could be very helpful to your wedding. First on the list is to hire a wedding coordinator. If it's within your budget, try looking into a wedding coordinator. Back in Guam, I've worked with 3 wedding coordinators, and they were by far super professional, super friendly, and they made the wedding day easy, not just for me, but also to the bride and groom. The wedding coordinators, think of it this way. They're there to take the stress away from you. All of your worries, your doubts, your concerns about how your wedding should run or should look like, that all falls on them. They are the ones that make sure that the bouquet and flowers get to you. They're ready to go. The rings are accounted for. Everyone is pretty much prepared for the day. They get the boutonnieres for the guys. They make sure everything is organized the way you would like it, so that way nothing is scattered and messy. The wedding coordinators that I've worked with have all been phenomenal at their jobs, and I really cannot thank them enough because they really did make the wedding day easier for a lot of us. So if you guys are watching this video and you happen to be a wedding coordinator, just know I appreciate you so much. Second generalized tip is to book your photographer or videographer 6 to 12 months before your wedding date. You'd be surprised how quick a calendar can fill up, especially if that is a very popular photographer and they got weddings booked all the way until like 2025. So booking them 6 to 12 months is pretty much a good standard. That way, you know, if anything changes, guess what? You don't have to worry about photography. It's all covered. Speaking of booking your photographer, that leads me into number 3, and that is to read the fine print of your photographer's agreements or contracts. Agreements and contracts are there to help protect us and you as well, to make sure that both of us understand what we're getting from each other and that we know the ground rules laid out before the day starts. The reason why I wanted to put this in the video is because I have a friend who got proposed around last year, and in her excitement, she really wanted to book a photographer that she's always been a fan of. And so she did, but she did so without signing anything and basically pay the down deposit like in a heartbeat. But then my friend had to go through some unfortunate circumstances in which she had to pretty much cancel that photographer because they were too expensive for her budget at that time. But because it was a down deposit, and apparently in that person's country, just reading an email is already legally binding. I felt bad because she didn't know that was a thing in their country because she didn't sign anything. That photographer didn't tell her that reading an email is legally binding enough without signing anything. So they were at a loss on what to do, and it just became a sour experience for my friend. Don't worry, she recently got married, and hopefully she's living a very happy new marital life right now. Plus she got one of the best photographers on Guam, so it's a win for her. And if you're wondering why photographers have down payments, it's because it's there to help protect us as well as to, you know, show us that we are in business. You know, we don't want to just sign a contract and say, okay, well, we'll show up to your wedding, but then guess what? The wedding day comes, you're all prepped up, you got the gear on, your camera's charged, everything, you planned everything, but then only to know that the bride and the groom said, hey, wedding got postponed until 3 months from now. All that time and energy it took for us to prepare for the wedding day just got wasted. So down deposits are essential and very standardized for photographers, yes, but don't forget to read the fine print of their contract or agreement, whichever one they send you. That way both parties know what they want from each other and no one gets screwed over. And that brings us to the end of the video. Hopefully this wasn't too long for you. I do not like it when things drag on, so I wanted to keep it pretty much short, informative, and down to the letter. If you do happen to enjoy this video and it probably helped you in the slightest bit, I do appreciate a like. Maybe subscribe to it. Something in my throat. And I hope to see you again. So yeah, shoot.